Okay, first of all, I owe you a huge apology. The Royal Chef's been missing in action. I've been so busy the last few months with different opportunities and cooking and rattling pans around the world. I just not had time to get back in the kitchen and make videos. But I'm back now, and I've got some great news to share with you. Anyone that likes to sail on Princess Cruise Line, their latest ship, Sun Princess, has my royalty menu on board, a sort of experience where I share anecdotes and stories and talk about the history and etiquette of afternoon tea. So if you're going to cruise, make sure it's Princess Cruise and make sure it's Sun Princess. And in other news, Eating Royally is now back in print. Finally, I can't tell you how many emails the team have had saying, where's the book? We want the book. But it's back in print, and if you want a copy, it's a hardback copy. If you want a copy, click on the link below, and not only when you order do you get a copy of Eating Royally, it'll be signed too, because I sign every single one. Eating Royally talks about my 15 years with the royal family, all their favorite recipes, and then stories and anecdotes of my 15 years cooking with them. And then also in the book, there's lots of photographs too. So most people actually buy it and then take it to bed and just read the book, learn about the royal family, and then they'll go down into the kitchen and start cooking the recipes. I'm gonna cook one of my favorite recipes, but probably one of the Queen's too, from the book today. And it's a classical dish. It's called a creme brulee. I say classic dish, I nearly said French classic dish, because everybody thinks creme brûlée is French. Mais non! Creme brûlée, the French invented in 1691. It was in one of the oldest cookbooks. Burnt cream actually dates back to the 15th century in the UK. So France, I'm sorry, is it French? Is it English? I think it's English. I think you stole this one from us. Either way, I think we can all come together and agree that creme brulee is a beautiful, beautiful dessert that sort of stood the time, and it's still on everybody's menu today. Everybody tries it when they go out to restaurants, but nobody really makes it at home because they're concerned, they get nervous about breaking the egg mix so the dish doesn't work and it spoils. But I'm going to show you an easy version today, the royal version from Eating Royally. I start off with some heavy cream, double cream across the pond. And I'm going to put that into a pan and put it on the stove and boil it. Just bring it to the boil. Now I don't want it to boil over completely, so keep an eye on it. Maybe put it on low and just let it simmer away. Then when you need it, just turn it up and bring it to the boil. While the cream's coming to a boil, I'm going to separate my eggs. I don't really need the egg whites in this dish, so I'll save them and I'll make meringues. I love meringues, they're the perfect afternoon tea treat. And there's a recipe in my second cookbook, The Royal Chef at Home, for the most amazing meringues. It's a strawberry and basil pavlova. Make sure that you don't get any little goldfish swimming around in the egg whites, otherwise they're no good for meringues. It has to be pure egg white, and all the yolks, all the goldfish have to stay in this bowl. Next, I'm going to put some sugar into the egg yolks. Don't need the meringues. And then I've got some vanilla bean paste, which I'll put in there too. I use vanilla bean paste. It's the strongest flavor. You can buy vanilla bean extract, but that's nasty. So I'll put a link to the vanilla bean paste in the description so you can get it if you want to. Then I'm going to whisk this together. You've really got to whisk it right away, because otherwise the sugar crystallizes in the egg yolks and you'll end up with crunchy bits in the brulee. Look at those little black flecks in there already of vanilla bean. Vanilla bean creme brulee is the traditional one, but nowadays you can put all sorts in there. You can put orange zest and lemon zest, and also make coffee creme brulees and caramel creme brulees. But I'm showing the traditional one today. A lot of recipes will talk about adding cornstarch in there too. But, you know, they say, oh, it's going to stabilize the eggs, but you don't need to do that. Just keep whisking as you pour it into the egg mixture, and these will be perfect. Now, this is an important tip. So, now we pour the mixture back into the pan, and you'll see when I pour it, the consistency is of milk, water. Don't forget all those beautiful vanilla beans. It's now back to the stove, where I'm going to go backwards and forwards on the stove until it starts to thicken. If it's your first time making creme brulee, then start with the gas on really, really low, and then as you get used to making it, you can increase the heat because you recognize when it's ready once it's done. And so what we've got to do is find something like a wooden spoon that has a flat bottom, and then we just go backwards and forwards along the bottom of the pan, because that's where the egg cooks. The heat is at the bottom, so the egg is starting to cook on the bottom. And by going backwards and forwards, we're just moving it off the bottom. And what we're actually going to see at the end of this is the consistency change from milk to that of heavy cream straight from the fridge. And keep going backwards and forwards. You can't leave it at this stage. You've got to keep stirring. Also, you need to make sure you've either got a nice little casserole dish or some ramekins ready, because once we get to that stage, then we've got to get it into the oven. The oven I've put on at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm cooking in ramekins, so they'll take about 8 to 10 minutes. Already it's starting to thicken, so I need to turn this down a little bit, and that is perfect. Look how much thicker this has gone. This is what the French call crème anglaise, English cream. So pour this now into a bowl so that it takes away that residual heat, and carefully pour the custard into the ramekins. As I said, you can use a casserole dish if you want to. The mix is going to make you 6 nice ramekins. And here, where you see a little custard on the dish, you can just wipe that away. And that way, when they come out, they'll be nice and clean and no burnt egg all around the dish. I'm going to put a little warm water into the tray. This creates a little steam in there, but it also helps protect the brûlées in the oven so they don't burn. What we don't want to do is just tighten up that egg mix, and so we get all of those nasty bubbles in there, and we end up with sugary scrambled eggs. Ugh. Into the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes. Once ready, take them out of the oven, but be careful, there's water in the tray, and if it gets on your cloth, then that's going to burn your fingers, so just be really careful taking them out. The brûlées need to be a little firm on top and have a slight jiggle when you move them, but be careful though, they're still hot. Now they're going into the refrigerator for at least 2 hours just to set up and chill completely. At Buckingham Palace, we used to get all of the cream from the Windsor dairies, from the beautiful cows, the jerseys that they had there. And it would come to the kitchen almost still warm, unpasteurized, and we made the most amazing, delicious creme brulees. Once they've gone completely cold, now we can put the sugar on. And you'll see in different cookbooks, recipes online, some will say, well, you use granulated sugar. Some say we use powdered sugar, but you should never use powdered sugar. You won't get a good glaze. Powdered sugar has cornstarch in there. And how do we even try and glaze cornstarch? You can't do it. So it should be granulated sugar and a light sprinkle, but make sure that you get all over, and only a light sprinkle, because otherwise what happens is you get a real crust on top that looks beautiful and nice and crunchy, and then underneath there's half a pound of granulated sugar, and that's not good. So nice sprinkle, not too much. We just want a nice crust on the top. Just take your time when you're actually doing these ones and make sure you get right to the edges too. And now the fun part, we get to play with fire and glaze them. I'm using this massive propane tank. It's massive for me, but this is what we use in the Eating Royally kitchens in Dallas. But you can go online to Amazon, Walmart even, Williams-Sonoma, and buy the little ones if you want to. But these ones, we can do all 6 at once. Okay, not quite. As you can see, it starts to color in the center, so carefully lift them up from the bottom and just roll them around, and that way you'll get the caramel all over. Creme brulee, it's so easy to make. Just remember that tip. You start off with it really thin like milk, and then when it's ready to go into the molds, it needs to have the consistency of heavy cream. If you can do that and don't overcook them in the oven, you can make the perfect creme brulee like this. And how you present it is entirely up to you. But I think that one is fit for a queen, a king. King Charles III. Or fine dining, how pretty is that one? Don't forget, if you want this recipe and a lot more like them too, they're in Eating Royally. Click on the link below, you can get your signed copy. If you've enjoyed the video, then click on the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment below on what you think of this. And do you have a favorite creme brulee recipe? And let me know what dishes you want me to prepare for you soon as well. But I'm going to do a lot more royal recipes. See you again soon. Oh, look at that crisp on there. Look at that perfect custard. The perfect custard, the perfect crisp. Mmm. Mmm.